Welcome everyone to Slapshot with Rick Wagen. This is episode 2. Hope you guys had a chance to review episode 1. We talked a little bit about the Montreal Canadiens and their preseason hopes. Um, Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about some follow-ups to the preseason, some line discussion, some team players that should make the team, some players that are fighting for roster spots, and then we'll probably also touch a little bit on a couple of the draft picks that came up in 2024 and see how they're doing in their respective leagues and areas. So as you guys remember, the Montreal Canadiens finished fifth to last year. They had a decent improvement from the year before, close to 10 points. They lost a lot more games closer than they did the year before as well. And so for this season, they, like I mentioned in the last episode, they pretty much have a few new additions. It's a quite a low turnover. They lost Jonathan Kovacevic to a trade, as well as Jordan Harris to a trade. They let go of Yolonin. There's a couple of small, fringe player injuries as well. And so really what we're looking at in 2024, 2025 is, a very similar team. So if you look at their first line, you have Slafkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki. And I know everyone talks about line combinations and first lines and second lines. I would be surprised if those three players play 82 games together all season. Injuries, coaches try to change up the lines a little bit. But I think you could be pretty safe that those three players will be top six, and they'll probably rotate within the first and second lines. The second line, a lot of people are slating Newhook into that spot with Doc and Laine. Obviously, Laine has potential to be a first or second liner for sure. Doc all depends on how he comes back from his ACL, and also, basically, he could be a 1A center if he comes all the way back and reaches his potential. And Newhook has speed. He can play center or wing. He has shown that he puts the puck in the net. He's played on a Stanley Cup champion team on the Avalanche. So he's a good, he has that seat right now, I think. When you look at kind of the people or the players that are going to fight for that number 6 spot, if you want to call it, in the top 6, the first name that comes to mind is Joshua Waugh. Joshua was drafted in later rounds a couple 3-4 years ago, and he played on the national, he played on the junior team, and we played with Bedard, and he looked at place on a top line in Canada. I know it's not a NHL caliber level, but he looked like he belonged on that line. He could play with top 6 players, and so depending on injuries, depending on how players do on the top 5 players, Newhook and Waugh, I think, will be fighting for that other spot. I think if you look at down the line at players that can kind of fit themselves in there. You have the Gallaghers, you have the Andersons. Again, they can bring a different level of energy to the line potentially. And then you also have even players like Owen Beck, if he can crack the lineup and get into that level. There's a lot of different opportunities, but I see Newhook starting the season there, unless Joshua Waugh and others don't take him out of that seat, as Martin St. Louis likes to call it. The third and fourth lines in Montreal this year are going to be interchangeable. What that basically means is, I lined it up in one way, and I had some friends look at that lineup, and they said, well, how do you have Anderson on the fourth line? And I'm like, well, the truth is there's a bottom 6 on this team. And again, Newhook and Waugh kind of interchange. But after that, you have Dvorak, and you have Armia, you have Anderson, you have Gallagher, and you have Evans. And Pizzetta's there as well. He'll get some ice time. He'll get some chances to play. Depending on the situations, you need somebody that can bring in that level of toughness into your team. So basically, the Montreal Canadiens are comprised of those players. I think they're going to keep only one additional forward this year. The reason I believe that is because I believe they're going to give a chance to Mailloux and Hudson on the defensive side. So when you're looking at the defense this year, you're looking at Gooley and Matheson. Gooley will probably play on the right side this year. That could change over the years, but for now, I think I see Gooley and Matheson starting as the top pair. And then you have Savard, and I believe that I believe, like I mentioned in the last episode, that Lane Hudson is gonna crack that top, that lineup there and play on the side of Savard, who can help him on the defensive side of the puck. And then on the third pair, that'll probably depend on the preseason, but I believe that Jack Eye has a good stranglehold on the left side, or on one of those spots. I think the other spot is up for grabs, and it's a hard battle, and it'll all depend on waiver rights and different things with Barron and Struble kind of already, with NHL experience, and then you have players like Mailloux and Reinbacher, and don't sleep on Engstrom. Engstrom is he looked really good in the rookie camp. He's played 2 seasons with adults in the Swedish league. He's impressive. So you have quite a few players fighting for very few spots. I think it's going to end up being Mailloux. He's had the experience in Laval. He's did well there. He's a year or two older than Reinbacher and Engstrom. So I think he's going to get the shot first, unless Reinbacher and Engstrom just kill it in the preseason. I think the odds of those two doing that, they'll look really good. But again, NHL defenseman, young, it's going to be tough to really show yourself and cross that line. So from my perspective, the team will look like Jack Eye and Mailloux and Struble and Barron. And they're going to keep Struble and Barron because they don't want to lose them on waivers. And they're going to keep Pizzetta for strength. That puts a few people, that were vying for this team spot at risk. There's Owen Beck and Farrell and Riley Kidney look good in the rookie camp. There's quite a few players that are going to lose their spot, I guess you can call it. And so there's one that came from Tampa Bay that is Alex Barré-Boulet is gonna take a shot at it. I think there's another player by the name of Oliver Kapanen who wants to make it, and Emil Henneman. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of borderline third, fourth line, bottom 6 players that are going to fight for their spots. But yeah, and that would mean that I wouldn't be surprised if the Montreal Canadiens actually made a trade. Try to unwind some of their larger contracts in the bottom 6, whether it's Gallagher, whether it's Anderson, whether it's Dvorak or Armia. All of those players, I believe, still have some hockey in them. I think they can still help the Montreal Canadiens on a bottom 6 role, and some of them can jump into the top 6 and do some damage potentially. So it's a good problem to have. Like Martin St. Louis said, there's everyone kind of has a seat right now and in his mind, but I think there's going to be a battle for these different positions. I think Lane Hudson has to prove himself defensively and strength wise to fight for his spot. I think Mailloux needs to outdo Reinbacher, and Engstrom needs to come in and really surprise to make things move. I don't think Hughes or Gorton are done trading this off season. I think there might be another trade, another move to help kind of support some of those other younger players, cracking the lineup in the next few weeks and months. If not, like I said, Laval will have a solid young team, and as soon as there are injuries, there'll be an opportunity. So that's my take on the team. We'll see where it kind of lands. Again, all dependent on injuries and trades, but I believe that the team will be, consist of those 23 players I mentioned. I left out Primo and Montembeau. I think they're going to win the goaltending spots. So you'll have two extra defensemen, one extra forward. Pez will be the extra forward, and Struble and Barron will be the extra defenseman. As for kind of the draft picks, I'll go really quickly on this one. Obviously, I mentioned, and everyone knows, Ivan Deminov. He's looked very solid in preseason and in the current season. Over at the KHL, he's not getting the ice time that some of the Montreal Canadiens fans want him to have. He's playing with Kuznetsov, who's a veteran, a wily veteran from the NHL. He looks solid. He has great hockey sense. He's a decent skater. He's got great stick handling ability, and he puts the puck in the net. We'll see as he develops. I am optimistic about him. I don't know if he'll be the next superstar in Montreal, but I think he'll be a top 6 forward for sure, and his ceiling is unlimited. The kid has talent, so we'll see how that lands. And then the other interesting pick that I want to kind of bring up more, because everyone kind of knows about Demidov, is Michael Hage. And Michael, he came from Toronto. He was one of the better players of his age, and everyone knows hockey in Toronto is solid hockey, and so he was one of the better players in that level. And so getting him in the 21st pick, these may be rumors. I might be extending rumors, but I believe there was a trade, ready to happen on the 21st overall pick. There was a couple of mentions. One was with Rutger McGorty and Winnipeg. Again, I think it was like a Barron and and the first round pick for McGorty. And then there was also a Zegras rumor that would include Mailloux and the first round pick for Zegras, and both of those they hung up the phone and canceled because they knew that, or felt like they had Michael Hage, who's a 6'1" centerman, lots of skill, has a solid strong shot. He's going to Michigan this year. I'm bullish on that kid, and what that does for me is it kind of opens up the ability to kind of leverage some of the other prospects we have for trades, whether it's a Machar or even a Beck, depending on the value you get back. The Canadiens have a ton of resources, ton of draft picks, and a ton of great young prospects. Like I mentioned, and the amount of seats that are there, especially in the top 6, because you need players like the bottom 6 players on all teams. Maybe you can have a solid third line that can bring in some offensive skill, but getting the right mix of players at the 20 to 25-year-old range is going to be key for this team. Again, this year they're fighting for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it, but I'd love for them to do so. And I think next year is a playoff year. If they don't make it, it'll be disappointing. And then we'll see from there. Obviously, it'll all depend on players like Slavkovsky and Demidov and Caulfield and others. Lane Hudson, making it and taking it to the next level. So a lot of pressure this year on the coaching staff, on the leadership to make it feel like this is a page turning. I'm excited again for the season to start. I think there's a lot of great players, and it seems from outside in that there's a lot of cohesiveness in the group. I'm hoping Laine fits into that cohesiveness. I think there's a risk there, to be transparent, but I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, there are some players that are on the back end of their career that need to kind of step up as well. So it'll be interesting. They have a good mix of veterans and youngsters. Most of their better players are youngsters. So that's what makes them kind of a developing team still. But looking forward to the season. I'll be back with the next episode, and we'll have a new discussion. Thank you very much. Well, I hope you enjoyed Slapshot with Rick Wagen.